Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Ferrum Academy. My name is Tom from the marketing team here at Ferrum Network. Please welcome Ian. Hey Ian.
Hey Tom, hey everybody, how you guys doing?
I'm pretty sure everyone's doing really well because this is that's another episode of the Ferrum Academy, right? So everyone's been learning the last episode of what to do in the bear market and what does it actually mean is already up. So a lot of people may know that the best thing to do is actually to watch Ferrum's YouTube channel. So here we are, and we are going to be discussing some interesting terms that a lot of people probably heard. Maybe not a lot of people actually fully understand what they mean, and what they bring not just to the crypto space, but to the whole digital world. So first, we may discuss Web3 and what does it actually mean. So what I wanted to ask you, Ian, is obviously your expertise, your opinion on that. What I found when I was researching this topic was a classification of what actually Web 1 and Web 2 was. And Web 2 still obviously is up until this point. And Web 1 was the time, in the 90s when the first websites actually got produced. People could go in to read Wikipedia, and Web 1 was classified as a time in the internet age where we were just consumers. We were just consuming the information that was put on there by institutions, by different companies. And then Web 2, so we still experience it still nowadays. It's a time where we're basically a product, because our data is being sold to different advertising companies. We create the content, but the content isn't necessarily ours when we sign up to YouTube or when we sign up to Facebook or any other social platform. We sign it that basically anything that we produce, anything that we upload, is becoming a part of Facebook, part of YouTube, etc. So what is actually Web3? How does it work with Web 1, Web 2?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you laid out the historical precedents that have led up to Web3, because that then creates a frame of reference for us to understand what Web3 is, what are its benefits, what are some of its potential downsides. But I think looking at Web3 in the context of Web 2 is the most informative. And like you said, Web 2 is a world where we live in now predominantly. Obviously, Web3 is gaining adoption, and it's slowly becoming more known, but it doesn't have nearly the traction that like the Web 2 world have: Amazon, Facebook, and Twitter, and what have you. So Web 2, the world we live in now, is exactly as you said. The product is us. So we don't own the data that we generate on these platforms. They're actually owned by the respective platform, and they can then monetize that and sell your information, do targeted ads, whatever the case may be. Web 3 allows the user, puts the user back in charge, and it's using technology like blockchain technology to enable this. So it's basically a world where the blockchain, through things like peer-to-peer transactions, ownership of your own data, puts you back in charge, and opens up all sorts of exciting opportunities, right? Where you can then monetize your own information or your own data, and you could do peer-to-peer transactions through various Web3 based platforms. And of course, it's also Web3 is kind of the bedrock of sectors like DeFi, right? So Web3, it's kind of an evolving term, I would say. But the key, from my standpoint, is that it leverages blockchain technology to put the power back in the hands of the user.
Yeah. And you know what? Like I cannot express how exciting it is for all of us actually right now to see this transition. and how excited I get whenever I hear about different projects, or like I want to research different products from the crypto space, and I go to the websites, and there's no login button, there's no sign up button, there's sign in with your wallet, and how extremely honestly exciting that is to see that there's so much more websites, more projects, more day-to-day businesses that utilize this feature. However, on the other hand, from a marketing professional's perspective, it's much more difficult, because what you mentioned before with the targeted ads, because in the Web3 and crypto, it's so difficult to actually get hold of anyone's personal information, personal data. It's much more difficult to market a product and to advertise it to the right kind of audience. But it's good because you need to be much more creative, and not people and not companies, especially with massive funding, win. But the most creative projects, the most sustainable projects and products win. And I think that's what's beautiful about decentralization and about Web3. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be living in. I don't know if people truly understand where we are in the adoption curve of Web3. I don't even really know.
Yeah.
No one can predict the future. I think we're early days. And there's still a lot of challenges we need to overcome before Web3, I think, is truly ready for the masses, right? Because um, Web3, since it relies on non-custodial wallets like a MetaMask predominantly, um, has a little bit of a barrier to entry, right? If you don't understand how that works, or that's too complex for you, you may not want to engage with any sort of Web3 products, or operate within the world of Web3. So I still think we have a long way to go from this. I want to get to a point where we need to get to a point, I think, as an industry where Web3 products are as intuitive and user friendly as the Web2 versions, right? Um, Everything should be very streamlined, easy to understand, so simple that your parents could do it just as easily as they can log on to Facebook and create a Facebook account. So we need to get to that point. I don't know if we're there yet. I still think we're early days. But of course, that's a very exciting place to be for early adopters like ourselves and anybody who's watching this video. So, for folks who are wondering, what does this mean? Where are we mean in 5 years? I don't know exactly where we mean in 5 years. I do believe that we will be much farther along in terms of adoption, and you will be interacting with Web3 products on a far more regular basis, including things like the Metaverse, right? NFTs, maybe even DeFi stuff. Once DeFi 2.0 brings us to a point where DeFi itself is more readily accessible for average people as well. So we're early days, but it's a very exciting time ahead, I think.
Yeah, no, 100%. And before we move on to the next question, I want to ask you actually something else as well. Maybe you can just give us a little update. Because you've mentioned a really, really good thing about the accessibility and the ease of use of Web3 products, which I think can also reflect on DeFi products. And obviously with DeFi 2.0 coming out, more projects releasing their vision and their ideas of what DeFi 2.0 products should look like, should work like, what kind of sustainability should have. What can you tell us about Crucible? Because this is a hot topic in the Ferrum's community, and we've just launched, I believe, the third phase of alpha testing. And yeah, what can you tell us? Because obviously this is one of the products that that fix the problem with accessibility and with the really poor UX UI design. Because Crucible is incredibly easy to use and is pretty much ready for mass adoption of DeFi.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. And just to give the viewers some context, we're talking, of course, about a product within the category of DeFi, but that's itself within the category of Web3, right? So we're talking about a product that allows you to sort of engage in like sort of a financial ecosystem, um, using your nothing more than your MetaMask and relying on transactions generated on a decentralized exchange. So that's, Web3 at its finest, I think. Um, you know, Talking about essentially a DeFi product. That's what Crucible is. Now, Crucible set out to do something more and something greater than some of the legacy DeFi products out there, because we looked at it from the standpoint of this should be easy enough for your parents to figure out. And we'll see if we have achieved that vision. But DeFi 2.0, to answer your question, is really the next iteration or evolution of DeFi, trying to solve some of the challenges that the legacy DeFi products faced, like you mentioned, accessibility, ease of use, sustainability. I remember when some of the early DeFi products came out, and there's still some that operate in this way. If you log on to their page, or you connect their wallet to their main page, it's really not clear what it is you should do next, what buttons to press, what's going on in the background, how does it work, how is this generating any sort of APR for you, any sort of rewards, and are those rewards sustainable? It's all a little bit vague, I think, with many of these products, early DeFi products, and that's great for early adopters, right? They don't mind. The early adopters of DeFi were very tech savvy people, and they didn't mind, jumping headfirst into something that an average person would be confused or intimidated by. But that's not how we get to mass adoption, right? So we kind of took the opposite approach when building Crucible. We wanted to make it as simple and foolproof as possible, so that when you connect your wallet and you see the landing page, you're immediately prompted to follow all these steps with like buttons that are colored a certain way, steps that are essentially spelled out for you, videos that explain. You can watch videos that are embedded within the UI that explains what's happening in the background. How is this product generating any sort of rewards, for the user? Articles will be linked as well. So just really trying to make it as user-friendly, intuitive, as understandable as possible. And then, of course, on the sustainability side, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole on how Crucible generates rewards in a sustainable manner, but suffice it to say, it involves arbitrage trading, and it involves the rewards are generated from the fees that the users pay to engage in the arbitrage trading. So that's it at a very high level, so that it is a sustainable product. But from the Web3 standpoint, the DeFi standpoint, solving that problem of user friendliness, accessibility, that was really key for us, and that to us is DeFi 2.0.
Cool. Okay, this is good. That's good. And actually, really funny story. I spoke to some of my friends the other day, and I was explaining to them, Crucible and what it is and what it. Basically, they were like, because they not like I'm not crypto native really. Like I'm crypto enthusiast, right? But they don't really know that much about crypto at all. And I was talking about Crucible. They were like, okay, but what does it mean? Like what does it actually all mean? And I was like, do you know what? Like, imagine that literally you just have, like a little crypto making machine, like money making machine, like, that you make crypto out of. And they're like, oh, okay. And the moment you actually mention to someone, you can actually make money out of something, that's when the eyes are actually going to light up, literally.
Of course. Yeah. You can definitely make money off of Crucible. It is a funny and interesting challenge to describe and explain it to people who are not crypto natives. I actually had the same experience with a really close friend of mine who's a Ferrum investor, but he's not, in crypto really. And just trying to explain to him how it works. He was asking a bunch of questions, so I had to sort of explain like what arbitrage is, how is it sustainable? What happens if arbitrage gets too close together? All these various like details. He was really getting into it. So, the amazing about Crucible is it's not based on voodoo economics. Like there's a lot of DeFi products out there that are based on voodoo economics that are just, that they're going to blow up one day. Somehow it's just not going to be sustainable. It's going to blow up. This is not that. This is really not. It's really not that crazy. It's you as a staker earn rewards based on the transactions generated by people who want to do trading within the ecosystem. So it's really no different than, it's like if an exchange, a decentralized exchange, decided to pay, and in fact, decentralized exchanges do this with LP, but if the exchange decided to pay the users the fees generated by the trading instead of taking the money for themselves, that's all it is. The interesting part is then how the system works to incentivize trading. That's where it gets a little bit, more complex, but it's really just based on the price differential between two mirrored assets. So it's not voodoo economics. It's not some crazy thing. It's just you're making money off the trading fees and people want to trade because there's price differences between these two assets. That's really it. And we're really encouraged by the early results. We're opening up Alpha 3, hopefully today, May 4th. So, we'll be reporting results on that. But we're really looking forward to opening up to the rest of the community and the wider crypto world, because we think we've made something really special here. And it's, we're looking forward to onboarding some non-crypto natives to this product.
Definitely. Thank you for that. Also, we've recorded an episode with Nick, an episode of the Ferrum Academy where we explain the concept of DeFi 2.0. We discuss the problems of DeFi 1.0 and how Crucible is actually solving those issues and fixing those problems as well. The link's going to be in the description. Okay, Ian, so we've discussed Web3, we've discussed also briefly DeFi 2.0 and Crucible. Let's move on to our final topic of today, which is the Metaverse. Still, some people do not grasp the idea of the Metaverse. They're still trying to understand what it is. Because to be completely honest, if you think about it, I think it is quite ahead of its time, still, because the concept is is crazy of the Metaverse, but it's fun and it's something that I believe it is quite futuristic. So what can you tell us about the Metaverse?
Yeah, I think people can be forgiven for not fully understanding the Metaverse because I'm not sure anybody fully understands the Metaverse because it hasn't really launched yet. Like no one's truly launched what we as industry, sort of insiders believe will one day be the metaverse, and there will probably be multiple metaverses. There won't just be one metaverse, right? But I, so it's hard to say there's one definition and like this is it, right? But this is how I look. This is how I view the metaverse. It's going to be a virtual reality sort of universe where you can be and do anything you want. You'll likely be strapping on some sort of VR headset. And if, the blockchain-based vision of the metaverse wins out, as opposed to like the centralized, like Facebook vision of the metaverse wins out, but assuming the blockchain vision, does pan out, you will, going back to what we discussed about Web3, you'll have control of your avatar, full control of it, full ownership of it. You'll have full ownership of the assets owned by your avatar. So if you have like weapons or clothes or whatever thing your character possesses, you as a character, but then also a human in real life, would have ownership of that verified and on the blockchain. So it's combining a futuristic world where you strap on your VR headset and you walk around like a video game like setting and do different things within that setting, with the Web3 elements of ownership, decentralization, peer-to-peer payments, sort of a fully decentralized Web3 universe or the metaverse, right? So that's kind of how I view it. There's love to hear the comments. Other people may have different takes on it, but we're not there yet. We're not quite there yet. We're still working towards that. Although there's already examples. Decentraland has done wonderful things. There's some other big metaverses that, well, I don't think are, I think we'll probably look back at those and be like, oh, that was Metaverse 1.0. And like Metaverse 2.0 is like so much better and solving all these different problems and looks so much better, whatever. But there are examples of it right now that are doing it pretty well. So yeah, I mean, it's a nascent concept, but it's very, very exciting. And when Facebook decides to rebrand their entire company to Meta to dive into the metaverse, you can assume that this is going to be something at some point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I'm really curious about what's going to happen and how is this concept going to evolve as we move forward in time, obviously. Because you're right. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Those metaverses or metaverses, they haven't fully launched yet, so it's still kind of in the concept phase. There are some demos available. There's plenty of different ones in the market. From Sandbox as well. So this is incredibly interesting and exciting. Also, for everyone to be aware that Ferrum hosts a lot of incubated projects here. And if you want to join and participate in pre-sales and actually be the first to hear about those projects, they're also from the metaverse. Come and join our community on Telegram, on Discord. It's super easy to participate in those pre-sales, and it's not a financial advice, but most probably, it's one of the best ways of getting into crypto as well, because you get to know those people, you get to participate in the AMAs, watch our videos, ask questions to the teams that actually make those projects. So that's super cool and super exciting. All the links are going to be in the description. But what I actually wanted to mention as well, whilst we discuss the metaverse, I had with Nick a really, really interesting call a couple of days ago with a company that is also a crypto project. They have, they're involved within different metaverses. They have some demos they can watch, but they're aimed to focus on B2B. So they want to provide solutions to businesses in terms of finding the best talent on the market to work for the different businesses. And all the recruitment happens in the metaverse. So you actually join the interview process and the recruitment process with different tasks in the metaverse. Which is something out of this world. Honestly, when I watched it, I was like, oh my God, mind blown. I'm just thinking how sustainable it would be, because I cannot imagine myself working in a metaverse, if that makes sense, Because...
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, there's a lot of people that believe that in the not too distant future, we will actually go to work in a metaverse, right? And you could imagine a scenario where everyone on the Ferrum team straps on their VR headset in the morning and logs into a metaverse and walks to a virtual office and actually sits around a table in a virtual world, and it looks like we're to us we're there, we're hanging out, we're engaging, we're collaborating as if we were in a real office, but we never had to leave our respective homes. So I think that is going to happen in the future. And like I said, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is betting big that this is going to happen. I don't see why frankly, it wouldn't happen in certain settings. Now, the question is, does that sort of implementation or that use case of the metaverse, where it's sort of recruitment or work-based tool, is that solving any real problem? Is that really going to benefit anybody to the point where they actually will want to do
Mm-hmm.
that? Or is it just good enough to be on a Zoom and just do this? But look, we're so early days that I don't know if we can even really foresee what this metaverse technology is going to become, and what use cases will derive from it, and how people will engage with it. But it's definitely coming. I mean, I don't if you look at the video games now, they're almost metaverse-esque with how expansive they are, and the graphics they employ, and the fact you can strap on a headset in a lot of these. So we're already like inching our way towards this concept, and then adding a Web3 component to make it decentralized and provide you ownership of your assets in the metaverse. It's kind of that next level. But yeah, it's going to be really exciting. A few years ahead, 4 or 5 years ahead. But I think we're years out from this being a thing that's ready for the masses or even early adoption.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Super, super interesting, and we could probably discuss and debate over this for hours. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. And Ian, would you have any final thoughts?
No, I just hope everybody's enjoying these videos. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. We'd love to have some feedback, maybe around topics that you want to learn about, hear about. Would be great to hear from the community. But yeah, just happy to keep doing these, and we're going to keep chugging out content for really as long as we keep getting people to enjoy it.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ian. And just like Ian said, come and join our community and share our videos. Watch those videos and let us know what you think. And if there are any subjects or topics that you want us to take on in one of the next episodes, let us know in the comments. Thank you, Ian. Thank you so much for joining this call.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.